Today, we're diving into Alphonse Daudet's The Last Lesson. It's a really powerful short story set way back during the Franco-Prussian War. And at its core, it's about a young boy, his village, and that gut-wrenching feeling of losing a huge piece of your identity literally overnight. So, the story throws this big question at us right from the start. How does a language actually die? I mean, does it just kind of fade away over time, or can it be snuffed out in a single moment by an order, a new law, an invasion? This is the question that's really driving everything we're about to talk about. We're going to see this whole thing unfold through the eyes of a young boy. His name is Franz. We'll start with him on his way to school on a morning that's just eerily quiet. Then we'll get to the heart of it, a shocking order from Berlin that flips their world upside down. We'll see a classroom totally transformed by regret, and we'll discover why language itself is seen as the key to freedom, all building up to one final, unforgettable moment. All right, so our story kicks off with Franz. He's a kid in the French region of Alsace, and like a lot of us, he's running late for school. He's dreading getting in trouble for not knowing his grammar, and, he even thinks about just playing hooky. But as he gets closer to the school, expecting all the usual noise and chaos, he finds silence. And it's an unsettling kind of silence. And this is where the author, Daudet, just brilliantly builds this sense of tension. Usually there's a great bustle, the sound of desks opening and closing, lessons being repeated out loud, but not today. Today, it's as quiet as a Sunday morning. Then he sees his teacher, Monsieur Hamel, who's normally pretty strict, wearing his best Sunday clothes, the kind he only wears for special occasions. And maybe the weirdest thing of all, the back benches, which are always empty, are filled with the old folks from the village, all just sitting there, completely silent. Franz knows, deep down, something is very, very wrong. So, the reason for this strange, heavy atmosphere, well, it's about to become painfully clear. It all comes down to an order from their new rulers, an order that changes absolutely everything in the blink of an eye. You see, on his way to school, Franz had passed the town bulletin board. For the last 2 years of the war, that's where all the bad news came from. And now, he finally learns what today's bad news is. An order has arrived from Berlin. From now on, only German is to be taught in the schools of Alsace and Lorraine. Their language, French, has been outlawed. For Franz, hearing this is like a thunderclap. It's this sudden, shocking moment where everything clicks into place. The quiet school, his teacher's fancy clothes, the villagers in the back of the room. He gets it now. This is their teacher's last day. This is their very last lesson in French. So, you have to ask, what's the logic behind an order like this? Well, it's a concept called linguistic chauvinism. Basically, the Prussian invaders believed their language, their culture, was superior. So by banning French, they weren't just changing what was taught in school. They were actively trying to dominate the people, to scrub away their identity. And this news just completely transforms the room. It's not just a classroom anymore. Suddenly, it's this space that's just filled with this heavy, unspoken feeling of shared regret. Which brings us back to those villagers sitting silently in the back. I mean, why are they there? These are people who probably haven't been inside a school in decades. What could possibly bring them to a classroom on this particular day? Well, it turns out they're there for a few powerful reasons. They're there to thank their teacher, M. Hamel, for 40 years of service. They're there to pay their respects to a country that isn't really theirs anymore. But maybe most of all, they're there to atone, just filled with this profound guilt for not appreciating their language, their education, when they had the chance. And you can really see this shift through Franz's eyes. Before today, M. Hamel was just that cranky teacher with the big, scary ruler. But now, seeing what's being lost, Franz sees a completely different person. He sees a patient, almost heroic man, just trying with all his might to pass on everything he knows before time runs out. And M. Hamel, he doesn't just blame the students. In this incredibly honest moment, he admits that everyone shares the blame. He says, "We've all a great deal to reproach ourselves with." He points to the parents who sent their kids to work instead of school, and he even blames himself for sending the kids to water his garden instead of teaching them. Everyone, he's saying, let this happen. So all of this shared regret, it sets the stage for what is really the most powerful idea in the whole story. The lesson is no longer about grammar, it becomes this deep statement about the power of language itself. In his final moments as a teacher, M. Hamel gives this incredibly passionate tribute to the French language. He tells his students it's the most beautiful, the clearest, the most logical language in the entire world. And this isn't just blind patriotism. He's trying to make them see that their mother tongue is a national treasure, something they now have to protect with everything they've got. And then he says the most important line in the whole story. He tells them, when a people are enslaved, as long as they hold fast to their language, it is as if they had the key to their prison. What does he mean by that? He means that as long as they hold on to their language, they hold on to their identity, their culture, their shared history. It's a form of resistance. It's a source of unity and hope that no one can ever truly take from them.
As the lesson goes on, Franz hears pigeons cooing up on the roof, and this really simple but profound thought pops into his head. He wonders, are they going to make the pigeons sing in German too? It sounds like a silly kid's question, right? But it gets to the very heart of the situation.
What Franz is realizing is that there are limits to power. The Prussians can force their rules and their language on people, sure, but they can't change nature. The pigeon's song is natural, it's free. It becomes the symbol for that deep, inherent love for your own culture and homeland that an invader can never really stamp out. And that brings us to the final, absolutely heart-wrenching moments of the last lesson, when the full weight of what's been lost just becomes almost too much for anyone in that room to handle. The church clock strikes noon, and in the distance, they can hear the trumpets of the Prussian soldiers. The lesson is over, and a new, harsh reality is beginning. Mr. Hamel gets to his feet. He's pale. He's completely overcome with emotion. He tries to say something, but the words just won't come out. He's choked with grief. So since he can't speak, he turns to the blackboard, grabs a piece of chalk, and with every bit of strength he has left, he writes 2 words for everyone to see. Vive la France. Long live France. It's this silent, powerful act of defiance. It's a final, lasting message about the identity they can never, ever let go of. So what does this story leave us with? Well, a few hard truths, really. It shows us that we often don't understand the true value of something, our freedom, our culture, our language, until the moment it's being ripped away. It's a huge warning against putting things off, against thinking, oh, I'll have time tomorrow. But most of all, it teaches us that language is so much more than just a way to talk. It's the key to our identity. It connects us to our past, and it's our most powerful symbol of freedom. And all of that really just leaves us with one last, very personal question. The people in this story, they lost their language in a day, and they were filled with regret because they didn't value it sooner. It kind of forces us to turn that question back on ourselves and ask, what have you been taking for granted?